Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the news from SABA Satellite Channel for America. Here are tonight's top stories.
President Al-Alimi reaffirms commitment to press freedom, condemns armed attack in Aden.
Prime Minister Al-Zindani meets UNDP and Hunt Oil delegation to strengthen development partnership.
The King Salman Humanitarian Center's Massam project cleared 2,108 landmines in the fourth week of January 2026.
Welcome back into the details. President Rashid Al-Alimi, President of the Presidential Leadership Council, reaffirmed that press freedom and the protection of journalists remain a core commitment of the state and a key pillar of the rule of law. He warned against replicating the abuses of the Houthi militias, which have turned parts of Yemen into one of the world's most dangerous environments for journalists. The president stressed that a free press is central to society's right to know and essential to any genuine path towards stability and peace, pledging to ensure a safe environment for media work and to protect journalists and media institutions from threats or intimidation. These remarks came during his meeting with Fathi Belazraq, editor-in-chief of Aden Al-Ghad, following an armed attack on the newspaper's headquarters in Aden. President Al-Alimi called for the swift arrest of all those involved, their referral to the judiciary, compensation for the newspaper, and measures to enable it to resume its work freely, stressing that the state stands with the free word as a partner in rebuilding national institutions.
Prime Minister Shaya Al-Zindani met today with Zaina Ahmed Ali, UNDP's President Representative in Yemen, to discuss strengthen the partnership between the government and the United Nations Development Programme. The talks focus on aligning UNDP's support with government priorities such as institution reform, anti-corruption efforts, and pension system reform. Prime Minister Al-Zindani emphasized that rebuilding state institutions and enhancing governance with measurable results remain top priorities. He stressed the importance of coordinating with UN agencies to maximize development impact, transparency, and accountability. In a separate meeting, Prime Minister Al-Zindani reaffirmed the government's commitment to supporting investments, particularly in promising sectors, during a discussion with a delegation from Hunt Oil Company. The delegation briefed him on current activities and plans to resume oil exploration and production, signaling growth potential for Yemen's energy sector.
Chief of Staff and Commander of Joint Operations, Lieutenant General Saghir bin Aziz, met with French Ambassador to Yemen, Catherine Corm-Camoun, and the French military attaché to discuss strengthening military and security cooperation. The meeting addressed maritime security, counter-terrorism, and anti-smuggling efforts, as well as coordination mechanisms to protect shipping routes and counter threats posed by the Iran-backed Houthi militias to regional and global security. General bin Aziz highlighted the efforts of the Yemeni armed forces in maintaining security and stability in liberated areas, expressing hope for enhanced training, technical and operational support from France, along with experience sharing. He praised France's support for Yemen, including the French military's role in maritime security, combating smuggling and intercepting Iranian arms shipments to the Houthis. The Chief of Staff also expressed gratitude for Saudi Arabia's unwavering support in preserving Yemen's unity, security, and stability.
Minister of Legal Affairs and Human Rights reported receiving numerous complaints from citizens and civil society organizations regarding serious crimes and human rights violations committed by UAE officials, Yemeni personnel affiliated with UAE, and foreign mercenaries. The violations reportedly include assassinations, kidnappings, enforced disappearances, detention in secret prisons, and torture. The ministry confirmed it is monitoring, documenting, and investigating these abuses, meeting with victims, their families, and witnesses, and visiting secret detention centers. The ministry emphasized that these acts violate Yemen's constitution, national laws, and international human rights obligations, and stressed that no one involved is above the law. It called on UAE and all responsible parties to be held accountable under Yemeni legal mechanisms. The ministry reaffirmed its commitment to document all violations, facilitate access to justice, pursue legal accountability, and ensure victims' voices are heard, noting that grave crimes do not expire and justice remains a fundamental national and legal duty.
The US-based Foundation for Defense of Democracy's FDD has called on the United States and donor countries to relocate UN operations in Yemen from Sana'a to the interim capital, Aden. The move aims to reduce the Houthi militia's ability to exploit humanitarian work and pressure international organizations. The FDD warned that the continued presence of UN offices in Sana'a allows the Houthis to access staff and resources, interfering with aid operations and influencing the distribution of humanitarian assistance. The think tank highlighted those previous failures by the UN to resist Houthi pressures require stronger international interventions to prevent aid from being diverted for political leverage or illicit funding. According to FDD estimates, the Houthis have generated nearly $10 billion through the misappropriation of humanitarian aid, reinforcing the argument of restructuring the UN's presence in Yemen and strengthening international oversight mechanisms.
The humanitarian crisis in Yemen has reached new levels of severity as the Houthi militia's actions continue to hinder vital aid efforts. Most United Nations humanitarian organizations have been forced to reduce or cease operations in Houthi-controlled areas, leaving millions of civilians without essential support. The following report has more details.
The Houthi terrorist militias has forced most United Nations humanitarian organizations operating in Yemen to impose an unprecedented humanitarian isolation in areas under their control. Following this, several organizations have reduced their operations or shut down their offices, leaving millions of civilians facing an uncertain future. Just last week, the United Nations Population Fund announced that Houthi interventions had undermined its humanitarian efforts, limiting its ability to provide health services and protection in already fragile areas. This was followed by the World Food Programme's announcement of its office closure in Sana'a and the layoff of local staff, halting all operations in Houthi-controlled areas. This decision reinforced the United Nations' belief that continuing humanitarian activities in these regions, governed by systematic malicious policies, is untenable. These policies have turned humanitarian aid into a tool for pressure and extortion, violating both local and international humanitarian standards. In between these announcements, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 2813 in 2026, calling on the Houthis for the first time to immediately and unconditionally release all detained UN staff and to provide a safe working environment for international organizations. UN Coordinator Julian Harnias called this a pivotal moment for dozens of humanitarian and diplomatic workers held captive and their families. Last week, the Security Council also concluded the mission of UN mission to support the Hudaybiyah Agreement after years of Houthis' obstruction, further thwarting one of the most important international efforts to de-escalate the conflict. This challenging week for humanitarian operations in Houthi-controlled areas was capped by Julian Harnias' announcement on Friday that Houthi militias had stormed over 6 UN offices in Sana'a, looting all equipment and contents. At the same time, about 73 local workers from various UN and international organizations have been detained in Houthi presence for several months. With the departure of health-focused organizations, the health system in Houthi-controlled areas is collapsing, and these regions are on the brink of a food system breakdown as basic relief programs have ceased. The situation poses a severe threat to the livelihoods of millions of residents. The legitimate government has fully blamed the Houthi militias for this deterioration, affirming its commitment to facilitating humanitarian work across the entire country. It also highlighted that the international community's reliance on mere concern statements has given the militia a green light to continue its violations, proving the failure of appeasement policy. While the UN and its agencies are living under duress, over 21 million Yemenis remain in urgent need of aid, according to OCHA's 2026 reports across the various regions of the country. Meanwhile, Houthi leadership persists in its isolation and stubbornness, maintaining its grip on power at the expense of the suffering of millions of civilians.
The King Salman Humanitarian Center's Massam project cleared 2,108 landmines in the fourth week of January 2026, planted by the Iran-backed Houthi militias across several Yemeni governorates. According to the project, the cleared explosives in Aden, Hodeidah, Hadramaut, Lahj, Marib and Ta'ez included 31 anti-personnel mines, 75 anti-tank mines, 2,000 unexploded ordnance items, and 2 impoverished explosive devices. More details in the following report.
The United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, has called for an end to normalization with Israel and a complete halt to its illegal occupation of Palestinian lands. In a post on social media platform X, Albanese stressed that Israel has no right to block access to occupied Palestinian territories and urged the international community to enforce the International Court of Justice ruling and compel Israel to end its occupation. She said, "The time for justice is now." The United Nations expert emphasized that under international law, as confirmed by the world's highest court, Israel's presence in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and Jerusalem is illegal and must cease entirely, including military presence, settlements, and economic control. Albanese's statement reinforces calls for global accountability and respect for Palestinian rights.
This has been the news from SABA Satellite Channel from Marib. Stay tuned for updates and have a good time.
Have a good time.